Hello there and welcome. This is Father Marcus from the Costa Blanca Anglican Chaplaincy. Delighted to spend a little bit of time with you this afternoon, so thank you for tuning in to this YouTube presentation. Tomorrow, October the 4th, is the feast of St. Francis. St. Francis, one of the greatest and most loved of all of the Christian saints, so much so that our Pope has called himself Francis after St. Francis, and I too have one of my children named after St. Francis of Assisi. So he's a big deal in many people's lives. The letter that I did on Friday tells a little bit of the story of St. Francis, but there's another very well-known story that I'm going to share with you this afternoon. You may well know this story. You probably do, but it's worth retelling, and I'm going to unpack it a little bit when I finished. There was a little village called Gubbio in Italy that was thriving and doing very well. But outside the village, in the woods, there lived a wolf. And the wolf grew and got very big and was, like wolves are, very hungry and would go into the village in search for food and would attack livestock, chickens and birds and little animals and goats and sheep, and it would attack them, and it would attack them and eat them, and because that's what wolves do. And it got worse and worse and worse, and eventually, when there wasn't enough livestock, the wolf started to attack children, and the villagers were terrified of this wolf, absolutely terrified. And Francis heard about it. The story is that they invited him to come and try and, well, they didn't know what he was going to do. So Francis went to the village of Gubbio and heard the story about the wolf. And so he decided to go and confront the wolf. And he walks from the village out towards the wood, and he sees the wolf in a distance. And so he walks purposely towards the wolf, and the wolf sees him and comes towards him, first a little trot and then as a canter, and then coming for Francis, snarling as if to attack him. And Francis raises his hand as the wolf is very close and makes a sign of the cross and calls him Brother Wolf. And immediately the wolf, his whole attitude changed, and he calmed down and he stopped the snarling and growling and just stood there and then sat down. Now, those of us who have ever had animals, dogs, cats, ducks, whatever you've had, you do tend to talk to your animals. We do. I talk to my cat, Puss Puss. How you doing? Well, Francis spoke to the wolf, and he said to the wolf, the villagers have contacted me because you're going in and you're stealing their livestock and you're killing their chickens and you're attacking their lambs and you've even attacked some of the children, and this is not okay. This is not okay. And in the story, the wolf just bowed its head as if in sorrow. And Francis said, I understand that you're hungry, I understand that you're a wolf, and I understand that this is the sort of thing that wolves do, but it's not okay. In this situation, it's not okay. And so Francis then says, I'll tell you what we'll do. I will invite the villagers to feed you if you promise not to attack anyone in the village again. Francis then walks back into the village with the wolf walking beside him. The wolf suddenly looking like a very tame domestic animal. And Francis goes into the village, and the people are amazed that this wolf that has been terrifying them for ages is very calm and very gentle. And the story goes that Francis says to the villagers, I've spoken with the wolf, and here's the deal. If you feed the wolf every day, the wolf will not attack anyone or anything in the village ever again. And the people just were amazed and said, how does this work? How does this work? And Francis knelt down and put out his hand, and the wolf raised its paw. And we've done that with our dogs, of course we have. But this is a story, and that's what happened. So the villagers got together some food, and they fed the wolf. And the wolf was as good as his word. He ate his food, went back to the woods. And from that moment on, every day, the wolf would come into the village of Gubbio and would walk around the village and go to visit people wherever they were. And the villagers would give him something to eat. And the wolf would, when it had finished its food, would go back into the woods, never again attacking any of the livestock, never again frightening any of the children. This went on for 2 years. 2 years. And the wolf became such a celebrity, as it were, in the village, that it would go into people's houses. It would walk into people's houses and people would welcome it. And they were fed, and there we are. And eventually, after 2 years, sadly, the wolf dies of natural causes in old age. And that's the story. And very often St. Francis is depicted in art with a bird on his hand, because he speaks to the birds, and a wolf at his feet. It's a story. It's a story told about St. Francis. I believe it's a beautiful and incredible story. But it's not just a story about wolves and talking to animals. It's much bigger than that, of course it is. It's about 3 things that I want to just draw to your attention. It's about inclusion, it's about being non-judgmental, and it's about changing things. The beautiful thing about St. Francis is he had such a devotion to the whole of God's creation that everything and everyone was included in his passion for life. And so up until the time of St. Francis, the wolf was terrified of everyone and everyone terrified of the wolf, and they were, as it were, at war with one another. But Francis included the wolf. He invited the wolf. He accepted the wolf. He brought the wolf peacefully into the village. And then the villagers included the wolf in their lifestyle. And how better to get rid of an enemy than to befriend it, to include it. So we learn a great deal about the whole sense of inclusion from this story of St. Francis. The second thing is that Francis didn't judge. And when we talk about not judging people from a Christian perspective, that doesn't mean to say turning a blind eye when things go wrong. Because if you see someone doing something terrible, you can't help but think that person's doing something terrible. So, in a sense, we're judging them. But in the Christian sense, it means not looking down on people, not having a sense of superiority about them, not like making an unthought through judgment about them. And so Francis, knowing that the wolf was a wolf, accepted that he needed to be fed. He needed food. And normally in the wild, he would go and take it. But in the story, there's no judgmentalism. The wolf isn't punished for the things that he'd done. The wolf is accepted without judgment. And that makes such a big difference, because we do tend to pass some sort of judgment and some sort of remark about people who are different from us. And you couldn't get any more different from a village community and a wild wolf. But Francis spoke and acted with a real sense of no judgment. And we learn a great deal from that. And the third thing about change, and this is so important because there are so many things in our lives that need change. Francis employed that wonderful tactic of transformation by delight. He changed the whole scenario by offering something better. Let me give you that phrase again. Transformation by delight. If we don't like things, we can fight against them and quarrel about them and get aggressive. Or we can offer something better, offer something more beautiful, offer something that works more constructively or more effectively. And Francis understood that because he understood the whole of God's creation. So inclusion, non-judgmentalism, and transformation by delight. My friends, that is the way that we're going to build the kingdom in this place. So bless you, bless you, bless you. Have a lovely Feast of St. Francis tomorrow, whatever it is that you're doing. Also, in the Costa Blanca Anglican Chaplaincy, our Harvest Festival. And if you're coming to church, bring something non-perishable that we can share with those who are in absolute need. But I look forward to seeing you again soon.